Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's Zoom, which is going to focus on John C. Maxwell's How Successful People Think. So I have made slides, so I'm going to share my screen and get going. And they should be, where are they? No, not that one. Here we go. Yes. All righty. Presentations. My second presentation today. I did a presentation about sex ed today that went really, really well at my school district. I need the button. I cannot move this. Let's move you. There we go. Present. Okay. So, how successful people think. So the one that I'm reading after this is How Successful People Lead, right? And it's funny because I don't have as much juicy stuff in it because the first couple of chapters are about like not being, like what not to do kind of thing, right? So, okay. This is very interesting. So the first little bit here is about how to just an introduction, right? So a lot of these are kind of basic, but there's some better things. Like as I was making this, I was like, okay, there are other things that that are coming later. So I prepared up to chapter 3. So we'll see. So the first thing we want to do, is you want to start exposing yourself to things that are going to help you, not things that are just interesting or intriguing, but really things that are going to help you. So reading books, trade magazines, listening to podcasts and audiobooks, and spending time with other good thinkers, right? People that bring out ideas in you and that fulfill that for you. And then when you've got something that intrigues you, whether it's someone else's idea or an idea that you've come up with yourself, you want to write it down. So one of the things that I have changed is that I've got a notepad beside my bed now. And I've got a notepad. I find now that I get these glimpses every day where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Or, oh, I should reach out to that person. So I either do it right away through Messenger or whatever, or I write it down and something will flesh out later. Even as I was reading this book, ideas would come to me. So I've got all these notes inside the book, right? It's pretty cool. But once you start thinking about your thinking, I was a teacher for 8 years before I became a counselor. And one of my main focuses was something called metacognition. And metacognition is when you actually think about your thinking. It is like some next level stuff about why. It's a lot of asking why. And a lot of today's stuff will be about talking about why. And you can choose to think positive things. Too often we are moved to the wayside and want to go negative, and sometimes negative is really funny. I saw a post by somebody the other day on Facebook about how they pretended to be nice and then they were actually kind of mean because the other person was mean to them first. I'm not going to get into it, and I was like, I get that this is funny and vengeful, but at the same time, I'm like, that's not the kind of energy that I want, right? I was like, again, yeah. And so I didn't even laugh at it because I was like, no, I don't want to have that kind of space with me. So we want to be intentional, right? And actually create a space and time to do it and making it a priority. So John C. Maxwell is very clear about he puts time aside every day just for thinking. I'm finding I'm still new at this kind of thing. So I'm finding that I don't have that intentional side, but I have set aside time every day for meditation now. And it's typically right first thing in the morning. I'm going to run a meditation group starting March 1st. So because it's all about abundance, which has been something I'm very much into welcoming into my life right now. And it's working because I feel actually I have an abundance of things happening right now. And then acting on those good thoughts. As we know, action, our business is built on action. And so you do have to act them. And so I love this next one, which is you can act your way into feeling long before you can feel your way into action. And when you wait to do something or wait for the right time, it's very unlikely that you'll accomplish it. I mean, I just even remember when it was time to think about having kids for me, it was there's never a right time, right? There's never a right time. You just have to go forth and do it, especially if you want the end result, right? So much of this is about action. And it's funny, I'll get to this a little bit later. It's like, it took me a long time to put together these slides, and time that I could have been probably doing something more productive in terms of the business. But it was more important for me to share this with you than it was to be reaching out for 3 hours, because these took me some time. But it was also a great review for me of the stuff that I read on the plane, because of course I forgot most of it, except I'm a highlighter queen. So once you engage in the process of good thinking, you can use your emotions to feed the process and then create that mental momentum. So we've been talking about momentum quite a bit, and you have to create it. And the longer you wait and the less you do of it, the harder it is to create. So right now I am in a very active part of my business, right? I wanted to ride the momentum from Cancun, but also Ben goes back to school March 1st. And I essentially start solo parenting at that time. So I know that there's this short period of window where I'm like, okay, reaching out. And because I have the time to do it right now, whereas I won't in a couple of weeks. And then of course, I'm going to see the benefit of that several months down the road, although for a few I've actually been seeing them immediately. So you just don't know where people are at. And then we want to repeat, right? So I love this, right? So especially when you think about, when we're at events and they'll be like, raise your hand if you want to enroll a Brandon Cunningham, or if you want to enroll a Carrie Dickey or a Tara Wilson or whoever, all these like big players, or Rachel Jackson, right? They're like, who wouldn't want somebody like that in their organization? Of course, everybody raises their hand. And then they say, no, like, you're the golden nugget. It's not them. And so you can't be truly successful in this business if you just have a nugget, right? We need a mine of gold to mine from in order to make this for like the rest of our lives. So we don't actually just stop working. I've noticed, I mean, of course, mine goes up and down and up and down. And some days it's tough, but it's just like, okay, I know what the end game is. I know what the long game is. And so that keeps me engaged. Okay, so now putting yourself in the right place to think. And a lot of this is about removing distractions. And I'll get to that in a bit. But you want to find a place, and he comes down to capture it on paper, right? When you find a place to think your thoughts will find a place to think, to find a place to find you. I was thinking about where my thinking places are, right? Because when you're a busy person, I don't, other than the meditation that I've added into my life, which I just set my alarm 15 minutes earlier. Other than that, I think in the shower and I think when I'm running. Those are my thinking places. And so now I basically need to have notepads in those places, even though it's very inconvenient to do so. But I do get ideas, and you need to write them down. They don't have to be good ideas, right? So much of what crosses our mind, especially, I'll say like late last night, you might have an idea that's great. And then you'll see it in the morning, you're going, oh no. But the point is to have them, right? To think your thoughts and have them. And then they need shaping. Now, I have recently watched this, I've been participated in this at work, and they don't come out perfect, right? They don't. You need to ask questions, fine tune them, and then share them, stretch them. And this is part of what is so incredible of us having such a great team, is that we can share our ideas and bounce them off each other. And I'm a counselor at work, and we have this course planning to do, and we have this new situation, and how are we going to resolve it? And one person thought they had the answer, and another person and I thought they had the answer, and neither were great. And in the end, after about 10 minutes of discussion and of sharing ideas, and some of mine were bad, but in the end we went with one of mine, right? But it was the idea of sharing them and developing them so that we could get to where, sorry, Ben was here, where we needed to be, and it worked great, okay? But we needed to share those ideas to actually make them and fine tune them. So that leads me to 3B, right? The right thought plus the right people in the right environment at the right time for the right reason equals the right result. And isn't that so true of what's happening with LifeVantage right now? Like, it's so true. We've got Are the thoughts there? The people are there, the environment's there, the timing couldn't be better, right? And we're all here for the right reason, which is to help people with their health and their wealth. So I was just like, boom, yes, Mr. Maxwell, okay. And then what we want to do is land them with others and get that feedback. And then they need to go into action, right? Because thinking divorce from actions cannot be productive. You can think all you want, but you're not actually going to make any changes until you put those into action. Okay, now we have, sorry, I have a bit of a frog. Archer was sick. I didn't get sick. I still managed to go to Zumba last night and to run today, but I do have a little tickle.
That's all I got too.
I know, Ben too, right? So yay, vitality stuff. Okay, so the landing process. Who do you talk to about your ideas? In many of the other trainings, in the other personal development stuff I've done, they've said that, okay, the people that you spend, the 5 people that you spend the most time with are the ones that have the most influence over you. So it's important to take a look at who those people are. Are they supporting you? Are they not? And I have certainly changed this group over the last couple of years. And the good news about that is that about once every 6 months, one of those people will drop off out of your life. So you have the opportunity to replace them with someone who does support you, who is into what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. And I have made some incredible friends through this business, and especially in Cancun, like I just connected with some amazing people, and some of you might watch this, but I'm just so full from that. It was wonderful. So first of all, though, you want to make sure it sits with you, right? That will give you integrity. And then people only buy into an idea after they buy into the leader who communicates it. So my business is skyrocketing right now, and a lot of it is from invites that I did a year or 2 ago. But now people are like, remember, people are watching, and they're watching to see you fail. Okay, that's what they're watching to see you do. And when you start to prove that you are not going to fail and that you are going to stick with it, they're the ones who are going to change their minds. So it's very important that you are fully in, that you believe in it. It took me a year to fully buy in. So if you're not there, I totally get it. I totally get it. But once you do, people will sense it and they will feel it, and it will change it. So ask yourself, do I believe it? Do I believe in what we have? For me, the answer is yes, absolutely, 100%. As you know from my last Zoom, I have set a retirement date for my school district for just over 3 years from now, because I expect to be fully supported with double my income from this. So from LifeVantage. So do I believe it? Yes, but you need to know, do you, right? Do you believe it? Do I live it? Well, living it is part of what is causing my success to happen. I am very public about the changes that I've made in my life. I am very, there's lots of curiosity there, like what is going on? So I am definitely living it. So if you're not, what can you change so that you're showing other people that you're living it and that you are confident in what you're doing? So you need to think about what that means for you, and then implement it, right? And be public about it. I cannot stress. I now have people coming to me I've never met before who are saying, I want to do what you're doing. It's really exciting. So, but you have to do the social media kind of that I'm doing in order to make that happen. And if that's not right for you, there's other ways to do this. Absolutely. But that's just what really rocking it for me, right? Do I believe others should live it? Oh, do I ever? Now when I approach people, it's all about them, right? I tell stories about myself, but it is all about them. I was at the pub on Friday night. There was a woman with a broken arm. We're on our way out. I just walked up to her and said, hi, I'm Christy. This might seem kind of weird. I go, but would you like to heal faster from that broken arm? She was like, yes. And I go, are you on Facebook? She goes, yes. And I'm like, okay, I'll friend you. And then blah, 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 blah. So she hasn't watched, but she's like, I want to watch it next week. I'm like, great. Just because my full intention was to help her in deep within my soul. If she says no, I don't care, because that's her business, right? But do I believe others should live it? Absolutely. Key players, right? So our company and a lot of social media is about influencers right now, right? But if you get influencers to embrace whether they join our business or not, but if you have some great third-party validators, which I do, and so many of the people on our team do, we want to tap into those influencers so that they can influence others into allowing us to help them, right? Breaking down those walls so that we can help them, right? And then, but it's essentially influencers are people who are the people who carry thoughts from an idea into implementation. They make things happen. That's what an influencer does, right? And then we also want to talk about the people who are the most affected. So people that can benefit the most greatly from this, right? And people down, like, so somebody new, when they talk about their struggles, that's so helpful for us because we're like, oh, that's what's happening on the ground floor right now, right? That's what's happening. And that is incredible feedback. And I thought about like field advisory boards here, right? So like Vantage has field advisory boards, Daisy is on it, Canada has one. I'm sure all the countries have them. And one of my goals is to be on the Canada Advisory Board in 2021, right? Because I want that, right? I want to be able to give back like that. And I want to be involved at that kind of level. So that's a goal for me for next year, right? So, but it gives corporate a reality read of what's happening. The thing that's just happened with the grapefruit Axio, right? Like, sure, there's a bunch of it in stock, but obviously people aren't loving it. It's actually my favorite flavor, but a lot of people don't like that it doesn't have caffeine. But it gives a reality read. Okay, now we're going, that was the introduction. Now we are going into the chapters. The whole first chapter is about cultivating big picture thinking, right? So there is a whole, I work with teenagers and I'll tell you right now, they do not, most of them do not have big picture thinking. Most of them don't, right? Because they don't have the capacity for that kind of perspective. But when you do, and we're all adults here, it's like you get to make the picture frame bigger, right? And in the process, you expand not only what you can see, but also what you're able to do, right? So how do we do this, right? So we learn continually. We are told time and time again that personal development is so important. And I actually can't agree more. Some of the, like a lot of the things that I have learned, I have transferred into other areas of my life. And like today, like I rocked my presentation today, right? Talking about like the present state and future of sex education in British Columbia, right? And so much of that confidence came from this work that I'm doing through LifeVantage, right? Like it's just been so good across the board. So we want to spend a few moments every morning thinking about your learning opportunities for the day. So you wake up and you can be like, well, what am I doing today? Oh, I'll just use my example. I'm going to be, I said, oh, I'm going to be doing this presentation. I'll probably learn a lot at that meeting and then also from doing the presentation. That's probably my greatest thing for today. Tomorrow, I don't know yet because I have it off and I canceled yoga and because I have to take my kids to school. But I'm like, okay, but tomorrow is a big LifeVantage day for me. Fridays always are because they're my day off. And so I will be adding a bunch of people to Activating You. I will be doing my process that I have, right? So I have a funneling process that I have through Facebook, which I've talked about in a previous Zoom. Yeah, so you want to note where it is and then look for opportunities. Like learning sometimes smacks you across the face, right? But that's not the ideal way to do it. If you go out and look for it and cuddle up to it instead, like that is a lot more helpful. And then listening. So listening intentionally. I had a principal today at the meeting compare me to a mutual friend. And, but one of the things that I said was different was that because I'm a counselor, I'm very gregarious and chatty. And I was rather engaging in this presentation, which was nice to get that feedback. But listening will teach you a lot more than talking. And I used to be the type of person that was just waiting for the other person to stop talking before I could dive in. And I was listening like half time, right? Now I listen very intentionally. I had a phone conversation with a potential customer yesterday who, again, I met through Facebook, and he's just in Chilliwack. And we talked for 45 minutes about rugby and his other business and and horses and a bunch of things. And he's great. He's really cool. And And so, but it was 45 minutes of a lot of me listening and responding to him, because it's important. That's a really important part of our business, is listening and then asking good questions. And so I think the dual synergizer he's going to enroll with, but we'll just see, right? But even if he doesn't enroll, the conversation was still worth my time, right? Like, it was still a great conversation, and I find him to be a very interesting person. And then when you meet with people, it's good to have an agenda, not like an agenda like, oh, I'm going to do this, but more like a schedule, right? So it's like, when we want to partner with people that are things that are good at things that we're not good at, right? And I've talked about this a little bit, like, we all have our skill sets, and when we pool them together, we are have much more success. All right, now next one, looking expansively. So in my work as a counselor, I have to do this all the time, but most people don't do it. We typically see our own world first, and then, but who you are determines what you see and how you think. So when you start looking at a greater worldview, and this comes from listening, right? You get a bigger picture, and it also helps you connect with them. So we realize that there is a world outside besides our own, and we make an effort to get out of your sides, see the world, others' worlds through their eyes. This has helped me greatly. Again, it's a transferable skill from what I do every day, but and sometimes it's hard because you're not identifying, or you're not like, oh. But one of the best things I ever did in counseling in my master's degree was, we talked about everybody being a multicultural being. And at first you think, oh, that's because I'm Scottish and you're Indian and you're from China and you're from Taiwan and whatever, right? But yes, that's a piece of it. But it's not really about that. It's about every single person being a multicultural being. So I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I speak French, I speak English, I'm a teacher, I like Burning Man, I love my horses, I love my cat, who's sitting right here beside me. She shouldn't be on a table. Anyways, and all these kinds of things. So when you think about yourself as a multicultural being, you can connect with every single person on the planet, right? You will find something in common. I already have something in common with half the world in the fact that I'm female, right? So when I was talking with Terry from New Zealand, who lives in Chilliwack, right? I knew he liked rugby. I knew he loved horses. I know he has grandkids. So we had that conversation, and I knew we were going to connect because I like all those things too. I don't have grandkids, but my parents do, right? So it's a matter of making those connections and finding where they are, because guaranteed you can connect with everybody on this planet in one way, shape, or form. Okay. And to live completely. I think I'm doing a very good job of this on Facebook, and I'm doing it in my regular life, but I'm documenting it on Facebook more so than ever, because I love 4A. The truth is that you can spend your life in any way you want, but you can only spend it once. People are inspired by others who are living their dreams, who are living the things that they want to do, right? And so it's incredible to be able to do that. And so I really encourage you to start documenting how the best parts of your life, right? And you want to avoid the negative, right? Like sometimes social media, like you don't want to live out loud on social media, okay? You don't want to live out loud because you want to be attracting other positive people to your business, right? And this is what's happening in my life. I started implementing it in October, and I am definitely reaping the rewards. I think before October, I had maybe 150 people who I knew who liked my Facebook business page. Now I have almost 400, and they're people that I've never met before. So it's definitely worth it. So 4B, people who see the big picture expand their experience because they expand their world. And then we accomplish more than narrow-minded people. So we always talk about, in education, we talk about growth mindset a lot. Adults are the ones who have a problem with growth mindset. Okay, they're the ones who have a problem with it, because we tend to get stuck and we tend to think that we have all the answers, but we sure do not. And I'm a great example of that in the way I ran my business for the first year, which was being totally uncoachable. So here we are. And now I'm like, okay. So we also, if you are a big picture thinker, you experience fewer unwanted surprises, because again, you don't have tunnel vision, you have like a wide vision, right? Okay, and leadership. Okay, so what we do want to do is attract other leaders to our business. They don't have to be leaders already, because of course we can turn anybody into leaders as long as they're coachable. So, and there's lots of different types of leadership. I am loud and out there, but there is quiet leadership that is equally as respected, right? There is leadership that you can do from behind the scenes. There's so many different ways to do this. So don't think that when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about the way I'm doing it. I'm just going to talk about my experience because it's working for me. But there are some things that are very important to this. So they see the vision before the people do. We size up situations and take account many variables. We sketch a picture of where the team is going, right? So one of our mantras, our mottos in Team Vitality is people first always, right? We're always putting people first, even when that's really, really hard. It's really hard sometimes, right? But the goal of leaders shouldn't be merely to make them feel good, but how to be good, right? We all have different dreams, and it's our job as leaders to help show the way to achieve those dreams, so that you're not just feeling good, but you're doing good. And then we want to show how the future connects with the past to make the journey more meaningful. That is a really big reflection piece, right? So it's like, okay, I used to do this, but now I do this. And I've had this journey there, and it's been more meaningful. And of course, to seize the moment when the time is right. Here we go. So getting organized, right? There's more on this in future chapters, right? But there's a few things that even I learned. I'm hyper organized. I write everything down. My day planner is insane. But we need to put our daily activities in context of the bigger picture so that you can stay on target. And this will happen a little bit later. I think it's in chapter 6 or something. I've only got 1 to 3 here, but there's like, I've started going, okay, like here's my weekly, but John C. Maxwell actually looks like 6 weeks in advance. And so on my day planners over there, but I've started using like instead of just the days and writing everything down, like looking at the month ahead of time and going, okay, like this, so that I have the bigger picture of what's coming up in the next 6 weeks. And it really helps you stay on target, right? Now, the better that everybody else understands the big picture, the better it is for all of us as a team, right? And I love this next one. The big picture thinkers broaden their outlook by striving to learn from every experience. This reminds me of something Eric Worre says, which he says, I don't lose. He goes, I only win or I learn. And there's no bad or good experiences. There's just experiences. And so when something doesn't go your way, if you need to learn from it, right? So then it becomes like I win or I learn, right? And sometimes we win, but we definitely learn more from losing than we do from winning. Winning feels better, like hands down, but we learn more from losing, right? And I lost a lot at the beginning of this business, probably 1.5 years. Like it knocked me on my tail and went, oh, wow, like I don't have all the answers. And if I want to grow and I want this to actually happen and make it happen, then I'm going to need to change, right? And I have. And again, oh my gosh, we only have 10 minutes left. Okay. Yep. That's okay. Fine. I knew we wouldn't get through all 3 chapters. It's okay. Okay, so we want to have lots of different types of experiences, both positive and negative, to help see the big picture. The greater the variety of experience success, the more potential you have to learn. And then you want to take chances, right? So it's so hard to reach out that first time. But if you reach out to 10 people, 3 people are going to watch the video and 1's going to enroll. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We have to be okay with rejection. One of the things that's going to come up later, but I'm not going to get to it today, is about out of your, like when you go outside the box, people don't like it, right? They're more inclined to stay inside of the box. And so you do have to fight against it, but it is actually the only way to be really successful is to go outside and take chances. All right. So you have to go against the flow of the world. Society wants to keep people in boxes, and you need to give yourself permission to go a different way, right? Again, I didn't do that until about a year and a half in. And then I said, yeah, okay, I'm ready to take that path less traveled, right? And when your world gets bigger, you celebrate. Why won't this go? Okay. Chapter 2. Okay, I think I'll get through chapter 2. They get shorter after a while, but okay. So how do we engage in focused thinking, right? So it is removing distractions and mental clutter so that you can concentrate on an issue and think with clarity. And I think this is a lot where meditation comes in, right? So it will harness energy towards a desired goal, right? The immature mind hops from one thing to another. The mature mind seeks to follow through. Now, what you want to dedicate your thinking towards, right? And this is part of like why I'm reading these books: leadership, creativity, communication, and intentional networking. I love intentional networking. I said in my meeting today for my sex ed meeting, I said, I love networking because we want to create a network of sex ed educators from across the province. And I'm like, I will go to events where I can network with these people. I will also be networking with them for this business, but that is not, but yeah, so we want to intentionally network. Identify your priorities. Find out what your strengths are. If you don't know what they are, ask the people around you. Ask people who love you. What are your strengths? And you actually want to focus on those because they make the best use of your skills and will bring you the highest return and reward. So give 80% of your effort to the top 20% most important activities. By the way, the most important activity we should be doing is inviting. Okay, I'm going to get to that here quite a bit. And it's funny because when I spent the 3 hours the other day working on this, I was like, I think I didn't actually make the best use of my time, but I also really wanted to communicate this. So if it's valuable to you, then it was absolutely worth that time. So I love this. Don't do the easiest things first, or the hard things first, or the urgent things first. Do first things first. The activities that are going to give you the highest return, which is what? Inviting and following up. Okay, inviting and following up. So these are the most important things that we've got going on. And you want to schedule blocks of time without interruptions. So my time is the hour after school when the kids are done and I don't have to pick up my own kids yet. So it's basically from 3:15 to 4:15. That is my focused time. I sneak in like little messages and stuff with people I'm talking to, but you need to give yourself a focused amount of time. Mine is an hour per day, often with more on the weekends, and sometimes I do a chunk, but you need to, and that should be inviting and following up. That's it. There's other things that you need to do. Maintain your business page, prep for team calls, like personal development. All those things are important, but the highest return comes from inviting. Okay. So we want to schedule those times. Tomorrow is a big day for me. I'll have at least 3 hours of life management work tomorrow, right? But that is also going to be mostly for following up and adding to activating you. Make time for it, right? Switching from task to task. And I definitely experienced this when I was making this thing. I was like, oh, got to do this, got to do that. Or I was reading something and I'd be like, oh, that's a quote that I want for one of my Motivation Monday posts that I do. And so I would stop and I'd make it really quickly because, but also it made me less efficient, right? I love this. Don't allow yourself to look at an email until after 10 a.m. Instead, focus your energies on your number one priority. I added this. This isn't from the book, but I'm like, it's inviting. And then you want to set goals. The mind doesn't focus until you have some clear objectives, right? So one of my driving forces this last 2 weeks has been like, I want to go to that elite dinner on May 1st, right? Like, and you have to enroll 500, at least 1,000 PV, new PV in February and March, right? I want that dinner bad. So I've already enrolled over 800 personal volume in the last 2 weeks because, I mean, again, some of it was making up from things before, but I have been like, also I have this concentrated period of time. I'm like, I've got to do it now, got to do it now. I have a real sense of urgency within me that is really going to pay off, right? So, so we want to schedule that. Okay. So inviting is the main priority. And your goals should be clear enough to be kept in focus, close enough to be achieved, and helpful enough to change lives. So for me, like I'm a Pro 4 now, and my next step is Pro 5. And my goal is to qualify for the Pro 5 Summit this year, right? So, and I actually want to go to the winter one. So I'm thinking like September, October, November, December. That's when I want to qualify for that. And I feel like with my lifestyle and whatnot, that is extremely achievable. But putting my goal as Pro 7 right now doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm like, okay, so that's it. I have a time. I want to walk across the stage in global as a Pro 5. So, okay, so Pro 5 there. And then I want to be, and then I want to qualify in this year for the next one which will be in March. And helpful enough to change lives. How amazing of a goal, right? Because if I go to Pro 5, that just means that we've changed that many lives, right? Okay. And what are you willing to give up to go up? Okay. Important. So I've made some choices where I was like, okay, I'm going to give this up. I'm not going to watch TV with Ben until 9 o'clock, right? I'm going to make sure, unless I have done X, Y, and Z, I am not allowed to go to bed. Or there's a bunch of things, right? But you have to be willing to give up some of the things you love in order to focus on what has the greatest impact. It's not an easy lesson, but the earlier you embrace it, you have to make sacrifices. That is what matters most. Okay, I'm going to stop with chapter 3. I actually made it much farther than I thought I would. So whenever we do this one again, because I think some people might want to do other Zooms, but I can probably finish the book with one more Zoom. Does anybody have any questions so far? Or anything to say? Because we've got about 2 minutes left.
Didn't want to say unrecorded though.
Oh yeah, then I'll stop it.
It
Hold
is
on.
important.